Hello and welcome to Wingin' It. So today we've got some more gameplay from the tournament's Discord, and you'll see it's not a great starting hand. So I'm already kind of straight away thinking, yeah, not a whole lot there I want to be keeping. I'll go for the 5 food, and then there's the common grackle in the tray, and I know I'm going first, so my plan here really is kind of just pick that up, get that down, and start cycling through the deck. So yeah, this kind of isn't a start that I find myself doing too often. I think it's a pretty desperate situation where, you don't keep any of those starting 5 birds, because normally you can expect something good, either for the forest or the wetlands, that is going to help get you started gaining some resources. But yeah, in that case, not really anything worthwhile keeping, so I think it made sense here to kind of go for that 5 food, and yeah, really just try and start digging through the deck. I've got the bird counter bonus, which is nice. That's going to work well with the grackle. Already at this point, I am kind of thinking, can I get some kind of full tuck wetlands engine going on? Obviously, the grackle is kind of a perfect start to that. But really, you need a food generator in there as well. So I'm kind of looking for a hummingbird or a phoebe or a crow or just something like that yeah, is going to help me get some food. So I do take the grackle, immediately reveal the American redstart, which is a bird I really would have liked to be able to pick up myself. But my opponent, they know what they're doing. They know this is such a strong bird and kind of have to deny me that, because yeah, if I could have picked that up as well, get that with the grackle, I've got the food for those, and that would be me kind of set up, good bird in the wetlands and a good bird in the forest. Now I am kind of thinking a little bit about the food choice here, so obviously I've got the freedom of being able to pay whatever food I would like. But really I'm kind of thinking, what birds could I pick up that I might want to be playing. So I'm looking at that tanager in the tray. That's a potential option. If I need to get something in the forest, obviously for food, makes sense to at least try and keep the cherry and the worm to help get that down. There is at least one worm currently in the bird feeder. So my opponent, they get a nice forest bird down, and so my choice there was to get rid of the wetland bird. So I think the kingfisher would have been a really good choice for them. The food, fish already in the feeder, works with a couple of end of round goals. So I think, ordinarily in this situation, I'd be looking to lay eggs on the grackle and then start digging through the deck, but it made sense to deny there. Now, perfect top deck draw there, barn swallow. Again, straight away my mind is going, right, how can I get a full tuck out of this? It's kind of the perfect start really to the full tuck, just missing the food. Obviously the barn swallow are going to work really well with the bird counter bonus as well. I already had the worm because, again, I was thinking when I was paying for that grackle, what food do I want to be keeping, and certainly the worm was good in that case. But yeah, that's really nice. It's going to help get me some more card cycle and more points. I'm now getting 3 points a turn from that. And really at this point, I just need that food source. And there it is, straight away, again, from the top of the deck, the American crow appears. So, I'll freely admit that I got some pretty good luck at the start there. Kind of made up, I think, for the bad luck with that horrible starting hand, to kind of immediately, the first 2 turns drawing cards, kind of draw those 2 perfect full tuck birds to kind of get that all started. Yeah, can't really complain too much about that. So I do want to obviously get the crow down at some point, but there's no real rush. There's no point in me playing it on that turn, because I'd then use the egg and I wouldn't be able to activate it anyway because I wouldn't have any eggs. So I think it makes sense to kind of give yourself that option of looking through. I do get the towhee there, which ordinarily, really, really strong bird, really nice bird to get, particularly with the crow even in the grass. And so I did have to think a little bit there, is it worth trying to get the towhee down and then maybe lay eggs and use the food from that to get the crow down. But I decided that actually what I had going was quite nice here, and certainly wanted to get the crow down on that turn at least, so that I could help a little bit towards this end around goal. So I'm on 3 and my opponent's only on 2, so unless they can get 2 birds down in a single turn, then I'm going to get a few points from this end of round goal, which is always nice. Unfortunately, they do get 2 birds down in 1 turn, so they do manage to steal that end of round goal, and yeah, they've set themselves up really nicely as well for this second one. I think this is kind of one of the drawbacks, especially with a kind of setup like this, with a full tuck, is you're often chasing those end of round goals and not really having much of a chance. So you can often lose all 4 end of round goals to your opponent, and that's really where you give them 22 points and you only get 10 for yourself. That is a big deficit, and you've got to work hard to really kind of claw that back. So naturally, go for cards here, no great surprise. Again, at this point, it is not worth using that crow. Until I have something where I know what food I need, there's no point gaining food because I'm just trying to guess. And equally, for as long as there's space on that grackle, I can keep laying eggs on it, and it's not a problem. I'd rather kind of be patient, wait, maybe see what I get. And there we go, we've got the Phoebe. So again, another nice food generating bird. And kind of, you can run into the risk, I think, with a full tuck of being too generous, being too cooperative and giving away food. Certainly the Phoebe can fall into that trap a little bit. But when I look at what my opponent's got set up, they've got a forest that can generate 4 or 5 food in a single turn. I think me giving a few worms to them through the Phoebe is really not the end of the world. And yeah, if I can get that down, I've already got the cherry for it, which was really nice. And now suddenly I'm not only getting that extra food from the Phoebe, so now 2 food a turn, but it's pushed my wetlands out that 1 further space. So I'm able to see more cards as well. And yeah, really kind of the strength, as I've talked about before, of a full tuck setup like this is just being able to see lots of cards. So I'm going to be spending every turn basically drawing cards. So I'm going to see 3, and then I can get some more tucks as well through the barn swallow to really kind of cycle through and hopefully get some nice big point birds or other birds that I can add to this setup. So you see there, I did draw the ring-billed gull, which is another one of those tucking birds. Now really kind of ideally I'm hoping for another bird like the grackle. So I'm looking for a bush tit, I'm looking for a blackbird, something like that, because every turn at the moment I'm gaining an egg on the grackle, but then I'm turning it into food with the crow. I'm not actually gaining any net eggs from this action. And when I want to be playing birds later in the game, I'm going to need to use some eggs at some point. I don't want to be spending turns laying eggs. I'd hope that I can get as many eggs as I need purely from this wetlands activation. So I can obviously think about skipping the crow a few times. That Phoebe is going to get me some worms, and certainly I've got plenty of birds in my hand, really nice ones as well, that eat at least 1 worm. Obviously in the case of that Say's Phoebe, that eats 3 worms. So for now at least, I can hopefully just keep cycling through cards and try and get some more cards that I can look to play, add to this wetland engine, but also that are going to hopefully score some big points. So this is the turn where my opponent did get the kill deer. They did admit to me after the game that they got it from the top of the deck, so we were both a little bit lucky, I think, at the start of this game in getting some nice birds, but that does kind of make me worry a little bit more about the Phoebe. Obviously I think when you see your opponent with a nice grasslands like that, you are a little bit concerned about giving away some food. But like I said before, they have access to potentially 5 food in a single turn from that forest. I think the occasional free worm from me is not really going to add too much to that, and actually I can feel pretty safe in giving a few free worms, because ultimately it's going to help me more. If it's helping me get more birds down, or maybe helping me save eggs from not having to use the crow quite so much, I think that's going to work well for me either way. So just for this end of round, I am kind of trying to keep my options open. Obviously my opponent is in a really strong position to score lots of points. Now I do have that Say's Phoebe, and obviously playing that, I've got the 3 worms. I can then lay eggs on every bird with a bolt nest, and including the Phoebe itself, that's going to be 4. So another potentially 4 eggs on top of the 2 that I've already got puts me up to 6. So in this position where I'm going second, I can be patient, I can wait, I can see what my opponent does. In the end they do lay eggs and they do fill up to 7, so that tells me it's not worth playing that Say's Phoebe yet. Maybe I get some more bowl nest birds later in the game and try and get some more free eggs from that Phoebe. I know I'm going to be playing it at some point, so I'm not too concerned about trying to rush and get that down. But really, I've got some nice birds kind of in my hand already. some nice grassland birds, and a couple more in the tray. So certainly I think, you know, these kind of double birds, the bluebird in particular, and I've got another one at the other end of my hand. Certainly when this end of round goal is all about getting as many birds as you can in your grasslands, and I currently have none, then I want to be trying to get as many down as possible. Unfortunately, I do reveal that dark-eyed junco to my opponent, and that's a really nice bird. You know, when you've got the killdeer in your grasslands, you can easily tuck cards behind that and get some extra food, as well as the points from the tuck cards. So quite unfortunate, I think. Yeah, quite disappointing to reveal that, but you know, I'm still quite happy with what I've got set up. I think really it is kind of just missing that last piece of the puzzle, that bush tit, or you know, something else that's going to get me some eggs in that wetlands. But yeah, like I say, I've got some nice options certainly in my hand for that grasslands. Really at this point I kind of just need to, you know, think about turn order, think about what I'm going to be doing, and can I have enough turns to play these birds, but can I have enough eggs as well? So like I mentioned before, I'm kind of gaining an egg from that grackle but also losing one from the crow. So I've currently only got 2 eggs, and if I'm going to be playing, you know, 4 or 5 birds in this grasslands, I'm going to need some more eggs at some point. So like I mentioned before, I've got that says Phoebe, that's going to get me some eggs on the bowl nests, so I can potentially look at playing that. I've also got the bobolink in my hand, so that is going to give eggs on all of the ground nest spaces. So again, maybe not quite so many eggs off that, but certainly those 2 star nests in the swallow and the Phoebe are really going to help out there. And yeah, you'll see just the sheer amount of food I've got in my supply at the moment. That's kind of what being patient is going to buy you. You know, I spent maybe 5 or 6 turns in a row just gaining cards there, and that's given me, you know, that 2 food a turn, and really I can look to try and get as many of these birds down as possible. So I do go for the bunting there first, and I draw the Prairie Manager bonus, which I think ordinarily is not a great bonus, but with a full tuck setup like this, I think it's probably one of the strongest bonus cards you could draw, because you've got plenty of these bonus card giving birds like the bunting, like the Sprague's Pipit that I've got as well, you know, and all these big egg layers like the bobolink and the Say's Phoebe, and then these double birds as well. You know, these are all the kind of birds I think that you're normally looking to get down already with a full tuck setup, because you've got all of those spaces free in your grasslands. You know, ordinarily I think you'd be playing birds like the killdeer that my opponent's got, and they're not going to meet this Prairie Manager bonus. But when you've got this full tuck engine going, you've got all of these free spaces, and yeah, you can really score big points there. So I get the Phoebe down on that next turn, and that was kind of my plan all along. You know, that's why I played the bunting first, so I could really make the most and yeah, get that extra free egg. And you'll see now suddenly I'm up to 6 eggs, and checking my food and kind of checking the bonuses, I know I've got enough food to get 3 birds down on this next turn. And I think this kind of caught my opponent a little bit off guard. You know, they felt pretty comfortable, I think, for this end of round goal. You know, they'd already got a couple of birds, and then they'd added a couple more to yeah, really cement their position here. And then I come along and play basically 5 birds in the space of 3 turns, which I don't think you can really anticipate that. You know, maybe to an extent you kind of look at the food I've got, you know, maybe look at some of the cards I'd been picking up from the tray, but yeah, you certainly don't expect something like this where so many birds come down in a short space of time. Now, kind of my decision here was, do I go for the bobolink and get the guaranteed eggs? I know I'm going to be getting 3 eggs from that. Or do I take a gamble on the prairie chicken? Obviously that gives me a bonus card. Potentially I could score more points than what I got from the bobolink. But really, you know, this is one of those situations where I'm looking at the kind of birds I've got down and thinking, right, what bonus cards could I potentially pick up that are going to help me? You know, maybe not a whole lot that immediately come to mind. And actually, if I can get those extra eggs, I know I'm going to need those if I'm going to be playing some forest birds. So you see, actually in my hand I've got red cockaded woodpecker, I've got the spotted owl. So these are both really good options, I think, and certainly ones that, yeah, I'll be looking to play. And again, you know, maybe gamble on that bonus card and see what I can get. Equally, there is that American woodcock in the tray. So see my opponent going first in this last round. If they leave that, then that's certainly something I can potentially look at picking up. And yeah, those guaranteed points would be really nice. Now, unfortunately, they do take it quite naturally, I think. Like I said, really big point bird. Those are the kind of birds that, if you're drawing cards anyway, certainly with something like a killdeer, then I think that's a pretty sensible deny. So really, this kind of late game, pretty straightforward. I'm kind of thinking, okay, what birds might I look to get down? In the forest, like I mentioned, I've got some good options. I will at some point look at shifting to the grasslands. So actually, another good strength of building up that grasslands in the previous round was that actually I can lay eggs and get some good points. Beforehand, I was maybe only going to get 2 or 3 eggs at a time. But actually now, if I'm going to lay eggs, I'm going to get at least 4. And potentially if I get some extra worms off this Phoebe, then I can hopefully look to get some more points. So you see on that turn I drew the Baltimore Oriole, and that's kind of my replacement, I guess, for the American Woodcock that I couldn't get. But the added bonus here is that it's going to work for this end of round goal. So if I get that down, I'm going to have 3 star nests plus the platform nest on the crow. So looking at my opponent, and they're only on 3 at the moment. Now, obviously there's every chance, purely from the number of cards they will have drawn through the killdeer, that they may well have found another one. But either way, I think it's worth getting this Baltimore Oriole down. Big points, 9 points from a single bird, and if it helps tie this end of round goal instead of losing, then that's still going to be worth points to me. So I think it's worth doing. And yeah, pretty straightforward. I can look to go for cards again. That's going to get me a couple of food. I can use the American Crow to hopefully, get the extra food I need to get the Oriole down. I was kind of looking at that yellow-billed cuckoo and thinking, maybe I could get that down as well. It's a decent point-scoring bird. Obviously helps with the end of round goal here as well. I think if I'd drawn this maybe 1 round earlier, it's something I would have looked to play. Obviously that pink power being really strong against this kind of big grasslands that my opponents built up. I know they're going to be laying lots of eggs, as they have done. So I would have been able to generate a few points from that. But at this point in the game, probably a little bit too late. And really, I think my focus is, get that Oriole down, and then 2 turns laying eggs. Pretty straightforward. Try and get as many eggs down on these platform nests. And really just hope that my opponent doesn't add any more. So they do play the Warbler. That's kind of their final bird that they're going to play. I know they've not got any food left, so I can feel pretty safe. Fill up all those platform nests, and it's not the most flashy of end of the game. Only laying eggs and getting 4 points is not amazing, but actually I think it worked out quite well here, because really the alternative was to just go for cards again, and that at this point, with only those 2 tucking birds, wasn't going to be generating a huge amount of points. So I think being able to have that option of switching to the grasslands and laying eggs late in the game like this, like I say, not only helping out on the end of round goal, but actually being able to generate points in its own right, always a nice option to have, I think. So as the scores start to count up, to be completely honest with you, I was not sure how to feel about this one. I knew I'd got some decent points from birds and bonus cards, but then I saw how many bonus card points my opponent had, and that did have me worried. Obviously losing a little bit on the end of round goals, not having a huge amount of eggs, it did leave me behind here. But this is kind of where that full tuck comes back, and there we go. All those tuck cards at the end gets me the victory by 4 points, and I was pretty happy with that. Considering the start, that 5 food, and kind of gambling on the deck and seeing what you get. Obviously did get some pretty good luck. I'm not going to hide that, but I think I managed to make it work quite nicely. And certainly I think the crown jewel of this game was getting those 5 birds down in the grasslands really quickly, getting a lot of points, winning the end of round goal, and maxing up that Prairie Manager bonus. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed that gameplay video, and hopefully you've learned something as well. I think this kind of shows off really the strength that you can get out of a full tuck setup like this, and really these wetland engines that are going to generate you cards and eggs and food all in the same action. They have a really high ceiling, I feel, and certainly lots of potential for high point scores. I do have a playlist with more gameplay videos like this if you want to check those out, but otherwise I'll see you in the next video.